Welcome to the second episode of Coffee Time Doodles. Pick up a hot drink, relax, and enjoy. Okay, ask yourself this. What makes someone a great performer? Is it hard work? Or does talent come from an innate ability to perform well in a specific interest? In today's episode, we're going to try to understand what talent is and how to achieve it. I recently finished reading the book Talent is Overrated by Geoffrey Colvin. Most of the following knowledge comes from his book and I highly encourage you to read it too. I will leave a link to his book in the video description. First of all, I can't believe how important this information is, and how much people don't know about what is needed to reach high performance in any field. So thank you, Geoffrey Colvin, for this piece of knowledge and all of your research on the topic. So hard work is the first explanation for what could make someone excellent at something. We would like to think that spending a lot of hours doing something ultimately leads us to improve and even become great at it. But the hard truth is that everybody around you is doing fine at their work. They're doing okay enough to keep doing it. Few of them are truly great at what they do, like world-class excellent. For example, why do some people have been golfing for 40 years and are still not excellent performers? Why can't they golf like Tiger Woods at this point? As Geoffrey Colvin mentions, virtually none of them has achieved greatness, and only a tiny few ever will. A research showed that many people barely get any better at their job over time than when they started. This happens in many fields. This phenomenon is called the experience trap. For example, more experienced doctors score less in medical exams than less experienced doctors. General physicians also become less skilled over time at diagnosing heart sounds and X-rays. This keeps blurring the mystery of great performance. So what makes someone great at something? Is it a physical gift they were born with? Are they held by nature? This would be the second explanation. It would explain why certain performers seem to do what they do so naturally. Because when thinking that it's a gift of nature, we may completely avoid the idea that we could actually get really good at something only because we think that we don't possess the innate gift to become good at it, that we're not genetically predisposed to become great at it. I hear all the time from people around me that they wish they could be able to draw or play guitar well, as if they think that they could never achieve a good level even if they worked hard. They think that since they don't feel talented at drawing or playing a musical instrument right now, that they are not blessed with the gift of music or something. Their idea of what talent is pushes them wrongfully away from potential interest. What these people are not realizing is that great performers were once as helpless as they are now when picking up the guitar or paintbrush. I learned a few instruments myself in the past: guitar, piano, drums, and violin. I was terrible at each of them at the beginning, of course. Nobody just starts playing violin for the first time and sound good, let alone has any fun with it. According to Geoffrey Colvin's book, his second explanation is wrong. He says, great performance is in our hands far more than most of us ever suspected. The research that has been conducted in many fields over the past 40 years around the world contradict largely what we think we know about great performance. The consensus is that we are not naturally born clarinet players or brain surgeons, because no one is. We assume that the great performers possess incredible memory or very high intelligence. Some of us do, but many do not. They say that some people have become international masters, but they had below average IQs. So it doesn't depend on superhuman abilities. Have you heard of the term deliberate practice? It's not what most of us do on a job every day. It's also what most of us think we do when we're practicing an interest, but most of us have it all wrong. Deliberate practice is hard, it hurts, and it works. More of it equals better performance. So it's not normal practice and it's exhausting. You need high concentration for deliberate practice. So if it's so hard or not enjoyable, then why do some people do it day after day while most do not? Is this what passion is? Would this be the key factor to willingly spending many tedious hours of our days using deliberate practice? Deliberate practice is about practicing not only hard, but smart. Contemporary athletes are significantly more performant than ever before, because they are better trained. This translates to most of the fields where excellence needs to be improving over time, and we're using our tools and knowledge to learn more efficiently. Geoffrey Colvin explains that the mathematics taught to high schoolers today used to take 30 to 40 years to master in the past. The intellectual content of the material is the same, and people's brains aren't any different. We can't upgrade our brain power that much in 700 years. Instead, the standard of what we do with what we got has risen. Violin pieces that used to be considered almost unplayable can be played by every young violinist graduating from Juilliard. People have learned how to perform much better. Chess is being played at a far higher level today than it was centuries ago. The game hasn't changed, and not enough time has passed for human brains to have changed. People are doing much more with what they got than before. As mentioned in the book, ability is in extremely and exponentially high demand in every field. That's why they all make sure that the tools for learning are highly developed. The researchers examined groups of kids for a long time and mostly discovered that the very meaning of being musically talented is largely attributed to the amount of practice and not to innate talent. The elite students in music school were simply putting a lot more practice time than the others. They practiced more hours every day. There is absolutely no evidence of fast track for achievers. Like I mentioned earlier, if we're all wrong about what talent is, it can be pretty damaging. Geoffrey Colvin says, "Imagine if we all think that a kid who doesn't have any particular innate talent in something should get pushed away from that activity, telling him that he should not waste his time with this activity because he'll never be great at it." This is why it's important to understand this. This happens a lot in business. Managers redirecting employees because they think they don't have the required talent for their job. And this is exactly the problem from my example earlier. The people around me who conclude very quickly that they should not be doing any art because they don't have innate talent in it, and so they never pursue it. Once we understand what makes great performers great, we realize how damaging it is to think that talent is innate. Just look at the current definition of the word talent. A natural ability to do something better than most can do it. It is innate, you're born with it, and if you don't have it from birth, you can't acquire it. This is a pretty bold definition considering that the existence of talent is not supported by evidence. Researchers analyzed a lot of successful individuals and found little evidence that they were particularly gifted before putting in a lot of training. As Geoffrey Colvin says, with a lot of these many researches, it seems to point out something. Not that talent doesn't exist, but that it's irrelevant. Researchers have found that kids who seem to show some talent very early on, like being able to play an instrument or being skilled with talking or writing, had parents that were deeply involved in their development and stimulation, in a way giving them early practice which leads to great performance. Scientists have not figured out what all of our genes do, but no genes identifying particular talents have been found. Genetics take thousands of years to evolve. So why is it that we're becoming better and better in every field so quickly? Practice. Better than before practice, and mentoring seems to be the consensus. It could be possible that in many years, scientists find a correlation from certain genes to talent in specific activities. But still, they would be much less impactful than what we found out about how much impact deliberate practice has. Here is one of the most interesting examples from Geoffrey Colvin's book. Let's talk about Mozart. Mozart is the ultimate example of the divine spark theory of greatness. Composing at the age of 5, giving public performances as a pianist and a violinist at age 8, going on to produce hundreds of works. If that is not talent, then nothing is. Let's look at it this way. Mozart's father was a musician and a performer. He also was a domineering parent who started his son on a program of intensive training in composition and performing at age 3, so he was tutored from the youngest age by a very qualified teacher. His father stopped composing at the time where he started teaching Wolfgang. In some cases, it's clear that Mozart's early work are not original. He created 4 pieces at age 11, but these pieces had apparently no original parts in them. He put them together out of works from other composers. The ones that he composed at age 16 also did not contain original music, but instead arrangements from Bach. And this is very normal behavior. Copying, arranging the works from others is a way to learn, to grow as a musician or an artist, a way to practice and evolve. So Mozart composed his first masterpiece at age 21. By then, he had been through 18 years of extreme hard expert training. He was also constantly rewriting and crossing out whole sections of his work. He was not creating whole symphonies in his head out of some divine intervention, like some people thought. But of course his work is amazing. But he made his music the way ordinary humans do. So Mozart became Mozart, by working furiously hard. Interestingly, they found out that because of the rising standards of our time and increase in efficiency of teaching, high-performing students of today learn much faster than Mozart did. Another great reference of Colvin's book is about Tiger Woods. I won't go too deep into details, but look at the correlation in both stories. Tiger Woods' father was a teacher of young men with a passion for sports and golf. He loved to teach and apparently had plenty of time to teach his son and was intensely focused on doing so. He said himself that he started teaching Tiger at an incredibly early age. Before Tiger was 2, they were out there playing and practicing regularly. Tiger Woods and his father both attributed his success to simply hard work. That's incredible! The two people that we reference when talking about raw innate talent. In both cases, the key to outstanding performance is attributed to only hard work from the youngest age. So if genetics have very little to no impact on great performance, what about intelligence and memory? How smart do you have to be? Certainly, intelligence and memory should help with becoming successful. Well, in a lot of fields, the connection between general intelligence and specific abilities is weak or non-existent. And as for memory, it turns out that memory ability is very clearly created rather than innate. Hear this out. Researchers found out that we can train the memory of a normal person and improve it tremendously. They say that there is apparently no known limits of memory improvement with practice. Smart people do seem to get higher academics, to perform better. It doesn't have anything to do with possessing particular gifts, but it still gives them a more general natural advantage. IQ may not explain great performance. Intelligence has been proven virtually useless in predicting how well a salesperson would perform, for example. In many cases, IQ just doesn't seem to matter. It does not even predict high performance in chess. Can you believe this one? Researchers have found that some chess masters have IQ that are below normal. The link between intelligence and high performance simply isn't very powerful. High IQ is not a prerequisite for extraordinary achievement. And as for memory ability, it's acquired. That's a great thing to know, right? We can all develop extraordinary memory with the right practice, even with an average IQ. Chess grandmasters are able to quickly memorize whole chessboards and play multiple games at the same time while blindfolded. Their memory is so well trained that it seems like a superhuman ability. So what is it that makes someone a great performer if it's not intelligence or innate memory ability? Of course, physical innate limitations such as height or weight can affect performance against people with different innate physical capacities in various sports, for example. But as Colvin says, anything beyond physical restraints are in dispute. The roadblocks that we face are mostly imaginary. But what makes some people go so much farther than everyone else? We know that hard work makes all the difference. Why is it that even though musicians know that practice makes better, some people practice more than others? Hard practice is a chore. It's incredibly difficult. Most people would want to avoid this pain and stay in their comfort zone. For most people, it's simply too much of a chore. There's actually a theory that genes could help some people to have the willingness to put themselves through this hard conditioning. Have you heard of the 10-year rule? Some researchers established that no one can achieve greatness without 10 years of extensive practice. No one seems to reach the top ranks of chess players without a decade or so of intensive study. It's the same for other fields like math, science, music compositions, X-ray diagnosis, literature. Not even the best performers became great without at least 10 years of very hard preparation. A cool factor is that research proves that people can keep improving long after they reach what they think is their limit. Ordinary people could keep getting better even after reaching a plateau. For example, if you offer better incentives for performance and better teaching, suddenly your staff may start getting better results. Overall, you can keep improving when aging and develop parts of your brain further. It seems that you can still be a top performer in your field when aging, while your other skills become less good over time with age. In other good news, it appears that our brains are able to add neurons even at old age, and brain plasticity doesn't really change with age. Let's go back to deliberate practice. It's what researching authors call their first reason why great performers are great at what they do. The difference between expert performers and normal adults reflect a lifelong period of deliberate effort to improve performance in a specific domain. They believe that great performers really are somehow different than the rest, but disputed the common view of where these differences come from. They deny that those differences are due to innate talent. Here's the problem. Years of hard work do not make most people good at what they do. Most people around us improve for a while and then apparently reach what they think is the limit of their abilities. But we've seen that the people who have achieved the most are the ones who have worked the hardest. So improving is not only about spending many hours doing something, it's about practicing smart and hard. Deliberate practice is designed specifically to improve performance. We tend to design our own practice routine based on what we think we need to improve. But when we are not at a high level in our field or interest, how can we understand how to correctly practice? I understand this issue because I'm the best example. I have spent years of my life being self-taught, learning guitar and drawing on my own. I did take some lessons for violin, piano, and drums. These lessons taught me that to accelerate performance improvements, you have to be taught how to practice right, to be shown what you're doing wrong and how to correct it. It took me years of practice on my own to reach a decent level of guitar playing. I was good, but not nearly as I could have been if during all of those years I had been mentored by qualified teachers. Now I have only been drawing for a couple years. I'm feeling grateful and lucky that I'm able to make a living from my art, even having a long way ahead of me before reaching mastery in my field. The lesson here is that if I want to keep improving fast, I should probably seek proper mentoring. I should find classes, go out there and take a figure drawing class, which should sharpen many aspects of my abilities. With all of the resources available today, I would think that you can probably achieve greatness on your own. It's just that much longer and much harder. So we should think about that the next time we start our practice session. Are we qualified to know how to practice right? If our goal is just to improve casually and have fun, I think it's fine to go at your own pace as long as you're enjoying yourself in your hobby. But if you want to achieve greatness with your interest and possibly make it a career, it would be in your best interest to put those hours to greater use than weak practice. It could be a huge time saver down the road. So deliberate practice is practicing the things that we are not good at. That doesn't sound very fun. So your willingness to do it will distinguish you from the majority. Most jobs out there seem to be going completely against deliberate practice. We don't want jobs to be hard if we don't need to. So it's not designed to make us better at anything. The last mind-blowing example from this book that I want to talk about is a researcher that wanted to test his theory that greatness and geniuses are made and not born. He asked to get a woman to marry him and have children with him so that he could conduct his experiment. Luckily, he found someone for it. The idea was to tutor a child from the youngest age to prove that with the right teaching and hard work, a child can be molded into becoming a high achiever. One woman agreed and they quickly had a daughter. They started teaching her chess because it would prove his point even more if their daughter could do good in a male-dominated area. The experiment began when their daughter Susan turned 4. They devoted their lives to teaching her how to play chess. They got 2 more daughters afterwards that got put in the program as well. All 3 daughters were homeschooled. So they were able to practice chess for hours and hours every day. The results? At age 17, Susan was the first woman to qualify for the Men's World Championship. At age 21, Susan became the first woman to ever be named Grandmaster. Soon after, her sister Judith became Grandmaster at age 15. If this doesn't prove a point, I don't know what does. Those girls were not genetically abnormal, and they were not struck by a divine intervention. If they were predisposed to become this good at chess, then most of us are too. This explains why deliberate practice, for long and hard hours, is the key to greatness. And since it's hard and sometimes painful, not everyone wants to put themselves through that. In a way, it's good news for those who can put in that extra effort to stand out a little bit. Success is 99% hard work. Time and chance may be the only other factors that help with success. Deliberate practice is so hard that no one can do it without the benefit of passion. But where does passion come from? That seems to be the hardest and most unsolved question on this topic. Why do some people willingly put themselves through this painful hard work and others don't? Is it possible to enjoy it? Apparently some top-level performers rate practice pretty high on the scale of enjoyableness, such as martial artists, for example. For them, it's a social activity. But for a violinist, it's another story. Deliberate practice might not seem as fun for them. Overall, we've seen that passion is something that we develop, rather than something emerging in full form at a certain moment. Wow, If I had known, at least in my teenage years, the importance of deliberate practice instead of normal practice, and also the importance of getting the right teaching and mentoring rather than attempting self-teaching, it would have been incredibly beneficial for me to achieve high levels much quicker. I wish someone told me about this. I always wished I had a mentor to follow me through my different levels of skills and teach me properly. Unfortunately, I never really had this type of guidance around me. I went into music and arts not because of my family, but very much of my own interest. And I think I practiced at a very bland pace, but long enough so that I could become decent at it. I would simply have become much greater and faster with proper mentoring. Let's see this as valuable knowledge for the future. I'm 35 at the time of this video, I'm good at certain aspects of digital illustration, and intermediate or even weak in other aspects. It would be beneficial for me to become great at it since it's my career. So learning something from the past would be to avoid wasting my time when practicing. I know how to practice hard, but I don't know how to practice smart. Because I don't have the skill level in my field needed to teach myself properly. I'm going to try to find a skillful mentor that can teach me how to practice efficiently. I really want to thank Geoffrey Colvin for giving us this valuable piece of knowledge. I highly recommend that you go read this book or listen to the audiobook. I really hope that this video taught you a thing or two, and that maybe it makes you think about how you could practice your favorite interest in a more efficient way and improve faster. And that's where I will leave you today. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, please consider subscribing and I'll see you next week. If you're interested in joining me during my live streams, I stream every day of the week on my Twitch channel. Thank you so much for watching.